Houston Real Estate Radio starts right now.
Thanks for tuning in to Houston Real Estate Radio to learn more about real estate news and information you can use on your next real estate transaction. You can learn more about our guest and the issues we bring you at HoustonRealEstateRadio.com. We also have a fan page, and you can listen to us on iTunes or use your iHeartRadio app. If you've missed any of today's show, be sure to check us out online, and you can also tweet us questions using hashtag HRER, or you can call us with questions, real estate questions, 281-882-8088. All right, we know that Houston is known throughout the world as the energy capital, and so we brought in Ryan McCord. He is with McCord Development. He's the president of McCord Development, and we have been talking last segment about Generation Park, getting a lot of information, a lot of interesting information about what's going on over there at Generation Park. So welcome back.
Thank you very much. Happy to be here today.
So we've really, you've talked about the different aspects of what's going into Generation Park and kind of the planning process that's been going on. But one of the things, in addition to all the oil and gas, the energy epicenter, is the fact that the oil and gas companies, they use a lot of attorneys, they have a lot of banking business. So I would think you're going to have some other industries as well.
I think you're exactly right. In fact, with our first, if you really look at the first, say, 5 or so companies that we're working with right now, only one of them being FMC Technologies is directly in the energy business. All of the remaining businesses are, unrelated to the energy sector directly, but being in Houston, Texas, they are certainly influenced by it, just like all of us are.
Right. I mean, energy really drives our economy here, and, it drives our housing market as well.
It sure does.
What state and local incentives are you using to draw these companies in?
That's a good question. I chair the Real Estate Advisory Committee for the Greater Houston Partnership, and there are a number of different incentives, both at the state and at the local levels, that are available to companies looking at relocating to Houston, and it just kind of varies on a case-by-case basis. When we're looking at a company coming into Houston, we evaluate a number of criteria based on how many folks are going to be employing, what type of facility they're going to construct, and the only area that we control in our quiver is unfortunately land price, and so that's the only subsidy that we can offer directly. But otherwise, it's up to the state or to the county in terms of tax abatements. We do have a foreign trade zone at Generation Park, which is something that we spent a number of years setting up. It's a subzone of the Port of Houston, and it's extremely advantageous to companies here that are involved in exporting or importing either raw materials or finished goods. The foreign trade zone was set up by the Department of Commerce, essentially to level the playing field between the United States and other countries that were giving tax breaks to their local manufacturers. And what it does is it either exempts or defers the duty on imported raw materials until they are either re-exported or distributed within the United States. And it also exempts that same inventory from property tax when it's in a foreign trade zone. So the savings for these companies, particularly in the oil and gas field, where they may have a valve or a piece of equipment that's worth millions of dollars to sit there and if it happens to be there on January 1st to be exempt from property tax is very meaningful to a lot of companies.
Wow. So warehousing product there is a good option in that foreign trade zone.
That's right. I mean, the warehousing of it, the part that we're also very interested in attracting is the manufacturing. And I think with today's low natural gas prices, it means a more predictable energy cost, particularly in the Gulf Coast region. I think we're going to see more and more manufacturing onshoring to the United States in the foreseeable future.
Well, a lot of planning has really gone into this, and the great thing about planning is that you can still keep some forest in there. And I know one of the different segments that you have is industrial. So you're not mixing it all up. You've got it kind of phased out and planned, which is nice because, like you mentioned earlier, we don't have zoning in Houston. So.
That's right. We don't have zoning, but the nicest parts of Houston are typically deed restricted by the original developer. Those are our master plan communities, and even going back into the 1920s, the River Oaks and the West Views of Houston. And so we're really following those footsteps, and we have come up with very complex deed restrictions that cover all of Generation Park. They have a different property uses that will be permitted on each of the different sites which we're selling. But one of the main things that we're focused on is having certain areas that will have a density to them and have an urban energy to them, and there'll be other areas where the land uses may be screened by a forest buffer. And as we design and plan out the entire 4,000 acres, we look at pedestrian connectivity throughout the development, both for the purposes of exercise as well as for the purpose of getting from point A to point B, maybe for lunch.
I like the whole idea of the walkability factor that you're considering. I like the fact that you guys are taking best practices from other developments around the country and even in this area, and it's really exciting. You mentioned the 4,000 acres. Is that the largest tract of land in Houston right now?
We're the second largest landowner in Harris County private landowner, I should say, behind the Howard Hughes Company.
Wow. And
it puts on us, we feel it as a family-owned business, and working on a development that will take the majority of the remaining years of my career to work on, potentially some of my 4-year-old and 2-year-old's career. We feel a real moral obligation to do the right thing with Generation Park, to try to create as much value, not just for the development, but really for the region, and to look at Houston's strengths, the regional strengths, and to cater to those and play to those, and try to create a sense of place that will continue to increase Houston's competitiveness on the global scene.
We're talking about Houston's new Generation Park, and if you haven't heard of it, definitely go online and check it out. There are a lot of great videos out there of it, and you can find out more at HoustonRealEstateRadio.com. You talk about kind of a next generation. I mean, you've really tried to build in things that employees of the future are going to want and want to live there and be drawn to those areas, kind of like last generation was drawn to the suburbs.
That's right. That's right.
What are some of the things that you've really incorporated in and planned in for that reason?
So it's things that are actually very much common sense, and it's something that a lot of times the very large companies of the world can afford to do on their own campus. Like in Exxon, for example, they can afford to amenitize their campus in a certain way that's going to make coming to work in that environment much more appealing to their employees. It's going to increase their ability to hire and retain talent. So what we're looking at doing as the master developer of this very large campus is doing the exact same thing, is essentially putting together in a nice, beautifully designed area of Generation Park. It'll actually be in a number of different modes, the combination of healthcare, there will be childcare, there'll be dining, there'll be, some after hours, entertainment venues, and all of the different kinds of things that will help save workers time in the morning, during their lunch break, and after the workday is over. And essentially, what we're trying to do is, our viewpoint in Houston is folks will generally continue for the most part to live in the suburbs, is to have them so they can drive from point A to point B and back to point A without ever having to go to point C. So everything that they need for their residential lifestyle is going to be in their suburbs, and I think a lot of the new urbanism is really capitalizing on that, and what we're focused on is doing the exact same thing but in their place of work. And so it's a different product mix, it's a different group of retailers. I'm not trying to sell anyone a couch during their lunch break,
right,
just a burrito, that's it.
Just make it convenient.
That's right.
Have a dry cleaner so they can drop off and pick up in and out of work.
You're exactly right. It's things as mundane as that, or as we're on Beltway 8 on the new section over there that's toll only, and so having an easy tag store, making sure we do live in a world of commuters, and that car care is available, and all of the things that you need that cause you to miss an hour here or miss an hour there, we want to have located close by.
The timing seems perfect with the completion of Beltway 8. So tell us about that. How long have you guys been planning all of this?
Well, sometimes it's better to be lucky than good, right?
So this was luck, huh?
No, well, I'll tell you a funny story. So we originally started to invest in this part of Houston when my father acquired the land, which is now Summerwood. So that was a McCord Development, which we sold to Newland in the late 90s. And when he actually acquired that piece of property, which is now on Beltway 8 and Westlake Houston Parkway runs through the middle of it, he likes to remind me that the only way he could get there was via horseback or helicopter. The Beltway did not exist. Well, Westlake Houston Parkway did not exist, and he worked with the original landowners out there to get those right-of-ways donated. And that was back in the 80s. Now, as recently as 2 years ago, the main lanes between I-69 or the Highway 59 on the northeast side and I-10 on the east side were just completed. So that was about a $500 million infrastructure project, and it goes right through the middle of Generation Park. We have a massive intersection right in the middle of our development, and we're also served by 3 additional intersections. So unlike some of the other major suburban town centers, we actually have 4 access points to a major freeway.
You're going to end up attracting some local businesses out there too, I think.
That's right. No, I think the area from a commercial perspective is already greatly underserved. If you look at the demographics, it's almost entirely a bedroom community in Northeast Houston. We're really looking to build the employment district out there. And it's not that, it's going to put any of the other employment districts out of business in Houston, not at all. We're actually, as the population of Houston is expected to double over the next, 25 years,
that's right.
30 years, whatever it may be. And so they're all going to need places to work. And so that's what we look to provide is for some portion of that future growth.
Sure. You can find out a lot more about Generation Park if you just go to generationpark.com. Some great videos there.
Ryan, I appreciate you coming on the show. Maybe you can come back and as the development progresses and give us an update.
I'll be happy to do it. You just have to give me a 1-hour time slot.
Well, we'll do it. You're listening to Houston Real Estate Radio. We'll be right back answering a question from our Twitter feed.